Welcome to Premier League All Access. We're at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tottenham just been beaten by 4-1 by Arsenal in the North London derby again. Perry Groves is on enemy territory, and he did behave himself pretty much today.
I thought I was very restrained.
You were, even though you were objective. What were you? Which one?
Objective, subjective, both at the same time.
One of the two. Anyway, it's a great win for Arsenal after lots of pressure coming into the game because of the victory for Manchester City the night before. And Crook, I think when we walked into this stadium, we didn't expect the atmosphere to be like it was. It was absolutely deafening in here. It was absolutely brilliant. It smothered you. And I can imagine it was quite intimidating for the Arsenal players, but they dealt with it really well in the end.
Yeah, they did. And I think you made the point before the game that whenever they've been in a situation where they have to play later than Manchester City, they've struggled to put wins on the board. Obviously, City did their bit against Newcastle, so there was that scoreboard pressure. The gap at the top was down to 2 points, but they've responded emphatically. And actually, we wondered how would they recover from throwing away that 2-0 lead at Molineux. Well, a 4-1 win against your arch rivals on enemy soil is the perfect way to do that. I think Mikel Arteta got his team selection spot on. He put Eberechi Eze in that number 10 position. He scored twice. Gyökeres leading the line up front. He's got 2 goals as well. So apart from the one Declan Rice mistake that led to the Tottenham goal, I don't think it could have gone any better for Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, when you saw the team selection, you seemed pretty confident. Not only because Arsenal looked to be at almost full strength, but I think if you look at the Tottenham team and the Tottenham bench, every single one of the Arsenal team and their bench would start ahead of the team selection that Tottenham could put out.
Yeah, that's what we said before the game. If you went man for man, then Arsenal would win the game. And I was just, I don't know if worried is the word, but in the past we've been a bit too passive, and I wanted to be into a basketball game because if you've got better players than the other team, then you're going to win it. And to be fair, I just thought that Spurs' team shape, the formation was good in the first half. The shape was good. You know, they went the sort of the 5-3-2, and they went sort of a mid-court press. They didn't try and overplay at the back. Vicario went long most of the time. They kept, although Arsenal dominated possession, I think it was 72% possession in that first half, Spurs still kept himself in it. And Crookie mentioned there about Declan Rice. Mikel Arteta spoke yesterday about basically showing up, and if you don't want to be in these situations and handle the pressure, then you shouldn't be.
He talked about the noise, didn't he? He was talking about the fact that, you know, the people were talking about you. People are going to criticise you. People are going to come for you. Because 20 years people have been asking for Arsenal to get back in title races and be part of the conversation. Now you're in the conversation. If you don't want to be a part of it, then you're in the wrong club.
Yeah, the thing is, you're judged on a different. When you play for the big boys, you play for Man United, when you play for Liverpool, when you play for Arsenal, the traditional sort of big three historically, you're going to get judged on a different level. And that's what happens. You have to be mentally strong because you're under scrutiny. And as you said there, the atmosphere here was absolutely rocking.
You were nervous. He was nervous.
He was
panicking.
I had the hairs on not on my head, but on the back of my neck. They were standing up. But I must admit,
he did have a little bit of a wobble. He was worried. Remember when we were in a break and he was shouting because he thought that Tottenham were going to score?
I wanted to play. We know when you get that adrenaline rush and you think, wow, you get that buzz, you think this is when you miss not playing. And the Arsenal players had to show up. And I've got to mention Declan Rice. Cricky said there about the mistake that he made, which he did for Colin Warner's goal. He didn't alter the way that he played. Do you know what I mean? He just said exactly the same, kept himself on the ball, wanting the ball, demanding it. And that's where you show your big characters. And Victor Gyökeres had his best game. 2 goals he took brilliantly.
Yeah, he did.
But he had his best game for Arsenal today, where him and Jagusin were having a little battle, a bit like Haaland and Dan Burn. It was because they were physical. They're
not heavyweights. Not the same.
Gyökeres
might be big and powerful, but Dragusin gave him far too much room.
Yeah, but that was it.
Dan Burn's a far better defender than Radu Dragusin.
But say in the second half, that little battle, then Gyökeres come out on top. And what Spurs did in the second half, which was quite surprising, is they started to try and play out from the back, like the free centre half split, go for the lines. That enabled Arsenal to press.
Interesting, wasn't it? Because Geese just dragged me to the toilet just now and said to me, Sam, what do you think the turning point was in the game? And I said, I think it was the fact that they gave the goal away so quickly at the start of the second half. Because although they weren't brilliant in the first half, Tottenham, they were better. They fed off the energy of the crowd in that first 45 minutes. But to come out in the second half and concede in that manner, and that's when you started seeing all that finger pointing again as they broke away after the goal had been given and Arsenal was celebrating. They're all turning around to each other and pointing, deciding who was to blame for the error, and it almost felt like harping back to what we'd seen recently.
Well, he's not got a magic wand, does he? Igor.
He hasn't even got a squad.
Igor Tudor, because he's still got, 13 players out injured. His captain unavailable. That was his own fault for that brainless red card that he got against Manchester United. You've still got players who aren't particularly good at defending, as I think we saw in all 4 Arsenal goals. I think he'll be really disappointed, the new Spurs manager, with how easy Arsenal found it to cut through them. And it's interesting what Perry said there. If it became a basketball match, Arsenal would come out on top because they've got better players. Obviously, the reverse fixture, Thomas Frank went to the Emirates. He tried to be too defensive, probably.
Yeah.
They've gone completely the other way today, and that hasn't worked either. So I wonder, actually, if he had his time again, might Igor Tudor have tried to keep it a little bit tighter?
I think it's big for the title race that Arsenal have won this, because it keeps everybody duelling for longer into the spring and then into the summer. It is still a long way to go. We've got 10 games for Arsenal, 11 games for Manchester City still to play. At the bottom of the table, I also think it's significant as well, because, they're very fortunate, Tottenham, that Nottingham Forest didn't pick up a point today or two, because they still don't look safe to me, especially when you bear in mind, Maddison, Kulusevski, Bentancur, Kudus, Romero, Porro, all unavailable again today. Solanke only coming back from illness in midweek. They've taken just 10 points from 13 home games. In fact, 10 points now from 14 Premier League home games. They never seem to be able to find their rhythm in this stadium. And a lot of that's down to the recruitment, right? So over the course of many years, they haven't been able to put the quality into this squad. One of my friends said to me earlier on today, the problem is, Mickey van der Ven aside, we don't sign players of the quality that we need to compete at the top edge of the table.
Well, he's not going to be here next season either, is he, Mickey van der Ven? He's going to want to
say that they get a little bit uppity in these parts if you start talking about Van der Ven leaving.
He's not allowed to say anything in here.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad I'm still in here.
Yeah, to be fair, we're quite surprised you are.
Actually, by the way,
there was a point where you nearly got kicked out.
I was very, very reserved today, by the way. I was very controlled.
Because if you hadn't have been, you'd have had the Secret Service on.
I would have been lodged out, yeah.
There's a woman who's standing, she's still standing about 3 inches from us, keeping an eye on everything that you do.
I think she's man to man.
Yeah. Well,
she was closer to you than Dragosin was to Jokovic.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Her marking on you was definitely better than what we saw out on the pitch from Tottenham. But, I mean, you mentioned when we were on air that the runner games they've got to come. I think it's Fulham away, isn't it, next up for Spurs. They've got to play Forest in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah, Crystal Palace.
They feel like big games, don't they?
They are big games, and it's a big moment for Igor Tudor.
Do you know what they have to do as well, though? Obviously, this North London derby is massive. It's massive for both. I think this is the biggest North London derby since the semi-final, the first ever semi-final at Wembley in 1991 of the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So,
free kick.
Yeah, George Jones said to me, "Go and change the game." We was 2-1 down, we lost 3-1, so I actually did it. So I did my job. What they've got to do is, the Spurs fans have got to be behind their team in every single home, not just for the North London derby.
They were brilliant.
Honestly,
in the first half, can I say, as the team emptied in the second half, so did the belief from the terraces.
It's very difficult.
But you're 4-1 down against your nearest rival.
If your team's getting scored, which they were in the second half, it's difficult to have that positive energy. But what they've got to do is they've got to keep that positivity and that energy for all their other home games. Because you was at the Etihad yesterday, and you said about the atmosphere, how it helped the Man City play. These players, any player that tells you that the atmosphere in the stadium doesn't affect them, I don't believe them, because you're human and you feel whether it's positive or negative. So the atmosphere is great, but the Arsenal players, they will walk off that pitch now because they knew that they were under scrutiny, because Man City win yesterday puts the pressure on. Coming to North London derby, I think it did Arsenal favour being away from home.
Yeah.
Today, because you're going into a bear pit and you're the pantomime villains, you know what I mean? And you had 3,000 Arsenal fans over in the corner there. They made their voices heard when Arsenal started to dominate the game. So big result for Arsenal. The Man City fans will be looking at it, thinking when it was 1-1, we got a little wobble.
Did you leave a derby once when Manchester United were playing Manchester City at home? I think they were 5-1 down at the time. Johnny Evans made a mistake.
Well, you're rewriting history a little
and
bit.
you walked out.
It was 4-1.
4-1.
It was 4-1. By the time I got to the Trafford, which is just at the end of the road, it was 6-1.
And then you came back in to find me.
I did come back in to find you. But before that Manchester derby, I was actually speaking to someone in the pub, and I saw the team. I wasn't Johnny Evans' biggest fan back then. And I said, Johnny Evans is going to cost United this game, and he got sent off.
So you're Man United through thick and thin and thin.
Only in the good moments, I think, which is the issue. In terms of good moments, where did Tottenham go from here then? Because Igor Tudor obviously has only got certain resources to work with. Is his front foot style of football with 3 at the back going to work for Tottenham Hotspur? Is it going to be enough to get
Well-
them over the line? Because they only need a couple of wins, really.
Yeah, but again, if you're being hyperly critical of the way he's set up today, João Paulinho isn't really a centre-back. He's had to go in there because he wants to play a back three. Yeah,
he
but
had no other
listen,
choice.
we hammered Ruben Amorim for not having a plan B. So this guy's come straight into English
He
football.
did have a choice because Archie Gray has played at centre-back probably more often than Paulinho.
Or just go with the two.
But I think he wanted the physicality of Paulinho. But the thing is,
There's no right back by name.
No.
yeah, but you're forgetting as well. Igor Tudor doesn't know the Premier League. You know what I mean? He's very managing in Europe, obviously managing Juventus.
Yeah.
You know, and getting them into the Champions League. This is a different sort of football.
And that's why it's a gamble. But also, just on the formation, I don't want to make it a whole conversation about his tactics, but how many managers have actually come into the Premier League and made a success of playing a back three? Antonio Conte won the league with it at Chelsea. Oliver Glasner did very well with it last season to win the FA Cup. Apart from that, it's not really a style for me that's suited to English
It
football.
doesn't really matter about tactics and style, and
Well, it will do going forward.
It might be
making
going
the
forward.
right
But it's
decisions
about
on the
it's making sure that when you're on the ball, you play the way you need to play to get a result in a football match. And at the end of the day, right now they don't have the quality of player to be able to do that, which is a real issue for Tottenham Hotspur.
And you feel for people like young Archie Gray, who got absolutely bullied by Gyökeres for the last goal. Again, he's played pretty much everywhere since he came to Tottenham, apart from in goal. He doesn't very often play in the position that I think he wants to play in, which is central midfield. But he's a young player still learning his trade, and he's going to be asked now to be a key part of what is a relegation
Right,
fight.
enough talk about Tottenham. Can we talk about how good Arsenal were then today? Like the statement.
We done
made.
Arsenal at the beginning.
Yeah, a little bit. A little, like...
No, I thought they were very good, and I mentioned it was maybe a little bit of a surprise that Eze got the nod, bearing in mind his recent
Why
form.
did
But
he
he's
score so
responded.
many goals
He's
here?
responded.
He always
know what?
scores in this stadium. He's done it for Bournemouth. He's done it for Arsenal.
She got 8 in the last 5 against Spurs.
Yeah.
And I think it was good management from Mikel Arteta
Is that
saying,
because he is a gooner?
but Richard,
Yeah.
and he knows what it means if you're a gooner. But again, he got his hat trick in the first game, and he hasn't hit the standards that he would like to hit, because I think today, I'm hoping that you see with Mikel Arteta that he released the hounds a little bit. There was a little bit more freedom, especially even in the first half when it was 1-1, where there was interaction between Saka was coming off the right-hand side, Eze was drifting in, Trossard was coming in centrally. So it wasn't as formulaic as what has been in the past. And I think that suited Eze. And it probably suited Eze being away from home, because you do get that little bit more space where teams
Even at
don't
half
sit
time,
deep.
going in at 1-1, he had a massive smile on his face. Eberici Eze. He thoroughly enjoyed this North London derby. And I thought
So much room.
I thought Saka was brilliant as well. And, I don't think he's had a stellar season by his standards, but I think you saw the best of
What about
Bukayo
Gyökeres?
Saka today. And Gyökeres 2 goals. Look, the first one was a brilliant finish. And the second one,
Let him have his
he's
fun.
used that power, as I say, to outmuscle Archie Gray.
Let him have his
probably
fun.
his best day in an Arsenal
Very
shirt.
much so. 15 goals this season. The first goal
Take
where...
us back to half time.
when-
Go on, tell everybody what happened.
Well, there was just a little bit of a Barney, shall we say, a little bit of a coming together with you
brought-
two,
you brought the
Herberts,
coaching back
and me.
now.
No,
We were trying to wind you
hold on. No, you weren't.
trying
You
to
were
wind you-
slaughtering. You were slaughtering Gyökeres in the first half. Going,
Slaughtering
he's
is
got
a
a
bit too
Tonka touch. He can't get on with it. And you said that one hit his
So
heels.
he doesn't get away from anyone.
You said one hit his heels. I went, no, Declan Rice should have put it in front of him.
I said it
And
sucked
I
him up.
said that he was playing well in the first half. And I said to you at half
did,
time,
you did.
he will score.
I was wrong.
Right, and you said for his goal, which is a great ball in from Timber, right?
Heavy
you
touch.
went heavy first touch. I'm like, he's in the D.
was
He's
winding
took it
you
out.
up.
No, you weren't.
I was.
But he's done his coaching patches.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Europa A license. And
Europa. Is that like a one down from the UEFA?
Do you know what could be significant as well? The fact they've won by 3 goals.
Yeah.
Goal difference could be massive come the end of the season.
Well, of course, because yesterday they closed the gap to just 1 in terms of goals, and now it's back up to 4 again. Look, it might come down to it. And I remember go back to the conversation I had with Pep the other week when I said to him,
Yeah.
that goal could change everything.
when
in
he
terms
chased
of
him down the
time.
tunnel at
The
Anfield.
other mention was
Pep. And he said to me, "Don't worry, we'll score more goals." But actually, Arsenal have got another 4 today.
we mentioned well about big players make big moments. David Raya pulled off a brilliant save.
He did, from
when it's
Richarlison.
3-1. Richarlison's flick at the near post.
That was
Donnarumma did the
nervy.
same thing yesterday, obviously for Man City, when Harvey Barnes had the shot, didn't he, from the edge of the box, and he'd save it low down to his right. If that goes to 3-2, trust me, that can still get that the atmosphere then explodes, and it goes a little bit nervy. So you still, again, you need your big players to have big moments, and that's what big games are about, the big moments. So you've had 2 from Eza, obviously 2 massive moments for Gyökeres. I've got a cheeky little bet with Charlie George that Gyökeres will get 20. I can't remember if it was 20 Premier League goals or 20 goals.
I don't think you'll get 20 Premier League.
You'll get 20 in all competitions, maybe.
Yeah, but we've still got 10 games to go. So we could go on a little run now. See? So, Charlie, I'm coming for you.
Okay, just a quick word. Gabriel, when he was pushed in the back.
It's a foul, 100%.
Yeah, listen, every ex-player we've spoken to says it was a foul.
It was a brutal push
I think
from Colin White.
He's already had a go at us for not having coaching badges, so I think we're going to have to...
You're going to dive.
No, you can't do it. You think
We're going to have to bow down to Perry on this one.
Dive, quick, dive.
he thinks we're kind of pushing towards the bar. He ain't going there. He ain't spend any money.
Dive, right, okay. That's the first part of the North London Derby review podcast done. The rest of the Premier League All Access podcast looks at Manchester City's victory, Chelsea's failure to beat Burnley yesterday, and a whole lot more besides. So stick with us.